Whether you've been here with us all morning, afternoon, or you just tuned in, welcome to the second annual Black Business Matters Expo. We are live, sorta. We're still streaming because we believe that was the best solution this year. Hopefully next year we can get all the mandates, masks, and everything lifted if everybody would just get along, or at least think about your brother or sister. Don't do it for yourself. Do it for somebody else. And if everybody did it for somebody else, then maybe we can get back in person. Right. Put me in, coach. What we got going on next? Things are starting to emerge. They're starting to accelerate. These tracks, man, they got your business going. They got your business growing.
Right. And we just heard from Gloria Mayfield Banks. With a learning disability, she obtained 3 degrees and advanced in her career to be one of the top fastest growing.
I had a learning disability too. Late at night, my mother used to try to wake me up. I was disabled. I couldn't think. I would be trying to write my paper right on. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry. I had to say it.
Okay, so now we're going to welcome April Watts again, and she will be speaking to 2 franchise owners in the segment Put Me in, Coach. Now, Chanel Grant is a multiple franchise owner. Her sister, and her mother are franchise powerhouses in PG County, and they chose to purchase their first tropical smoothie cafe franchise.
I want one now. As soon as you say smoothie, for some reason, I don't care what time of year it is, you need a smoothie. I think right. If you're in Prince George's County, tropical smoothie franchise. Shout out. Okay, go ahead.
And so they have a couple of locations with that. And then in 2019, her family opened Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa, which is the first in PG County. Mm-hmm. And they're set to open up another location shortly, in a few months. And what's really great, you'll hear Chanel talk about how she's offering training classes for others who want to run a franchise. Oh,
I thought you said for masseuse, because I'm gonna sign somebody up. Training online massage training class. It's certain words, smoothie, massage. I just did it. A franchise is a proven system. Yeah. Hopefully, it's proven enough that you can take their proven system, apply what they've already learned, put it into practice, and make some money.
Yes. So in addition to Chanel, we're going to hear from Donzella Burton, and her franchise is titled the Assisted Living Coach. So she's an assisted living facility owner, consultant, and coach. And she serves as the founder of Donzella's Assisted Living and Healthcare Training Center.
Put me in, coach. I wonder, are there more women business coaches? Because I see, a lot of times I see a lot of people who have coach by their name. We might not have to do the data on that. I think the women may be leading in that coaching field. Later for the NFL, okay? Let's get to this money. I know somebody who has some property, and they were just talking the other day about it's too many steps. It's too many steps to get it. Listen, we need a coach. Donzella, yes. I'm going to give them your name and your contact, and they need coaching because their mindset is wrong. They need to just change their mindset and just realize that the boomers are going to need some assisted living.
That's true.
And everybody knows when the boomers move into a certain part of their life that they take over that whole category. That's a great thing. I think I need a coach. I need to change jobs or something. Anyway, welcome our coaches. April Watts, you still hanging out with us? Thank you, April. From the bottom of my heart. And Dana's heart, too.
Hey, ladies. How are you today?
Doing well.
Good. How are you? I am fantastic, and I'm super excited to start this conversation with you guys. The topic is Put Me in, Coach. And we have 2 dynamic individuals, Chanel Grant, multi-franchisee, owner of several tropical smoothies. And you've also opened up a Hand and Stone Spa, right?
That's correct.
That's awesome because today is actually National Spa Day. I need one of those situations right now.
Exactly.
We also have Donzella Burton, the assisted living coach. You own multiple assisted living facilities. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. I want to know from each of you, and whoever can jump in first, what led you to your current industry?
So I'll go first, if you don't mind. I literally got thrown into the business. I knew nothing about healthcare. I never even heard of assisted living, never been in a nursing home. And I was introduced into assisted living by someone. And when they took me to someone's house who owned a facility, I was like, no, thank you. So it was just something that I didn't have a passion for. It was something that I didn't want to do. Fast forward 11 years later, here I am.
So what made you do it? Was it that it was lucrative financially?
You know what?
Or
So what made me do it? I was married, and my ex-husband said, you know what, this is a great business. You know, you can make a lot of money, and so on and so forth. And I said, okay, let me try it. And so I got one facility, then I got another, got 4 facilities, and then I also not recently, like 5 years ago, got a training center where I teach, or I should say educate individuals on how to start their own facilities. I actually just came back from Houston. I had a sold out event, over 60 people that wanted to start their own facilities. Yes, so elderly people are living a lot longer, and assisted living businesses are definitely in demand.
Awesome. Thank you so much. What about you,
Thank you.
Chanel? What led you to becoming a multiple franchisee?
Absolutely. So I'm actually in business with my mom and my sister. And back in 2015, we were all working very busy corporate jobs. We were actually on a 3-way call like we usually are. And we started thinking, like, what's next? I actually grew up, my parents were both entrepreneurs, so I've watched them build businesses my entire life. And we were just talking, like, what's next? And we started to look at our community. We live in Prince George's County, Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, what is the community missing? And we identified healthy foods being a segment that our community was missing.
Yes.
And we started to do our research, fell in love with the Tropical Smoothie brand. There was a ton of opportunity in the Maryland area. We opened our very first store in October of 2016 and then proceeded to grow. Right now we have 4 stores currently open. 2 are in the Maryland area. 3 are in the Maryland area, and the others are on the Virginia side.
Okay.
And we have 2 others that are in development as well. And kind of in our process of growing with Tropical Smoothie, we also start to think, okay, well, what else doesn't the county have? You know, since the county responded so well to us bringing healthy foods, like what else could we bring to our community? And so that's how we stumbled upon Hand and Stone. We have always loved the spa industry, always been a customer of the spa,
Yes.
of various spas. I love it. I've been getting facials since I was like a teenager. And so it was just like the right fit. And then when we met the leadership within Hand and Stone, just fell in love with the brand. Again, we knew it was the right fit. Opened our spa in Brandywine in November of 2020, so in the midst of the pandemic. Wow. And there was just an overwhelming response. I think folks were ready to get back to their self-care. And we have been so successful in that location that we very soon after signed another franchise agreement and recently just opened up our second spa in Woodbridge, Virginia.
That is so awesome. That is very awesome. Now, both of you have multiple businesses. Was it easy to duplicate the formula once you worked through the kinks of the first business? How does that work?
So with myself, it was a lot easier doing the second, third, and fourth one because I just pretty much dictated what I did for the first one. The first one was trial and error, making a lot of mistakes and, you know, trying to learn the business and trying to do everything right. So when I got my second one, it was like clockwork. It was like second nature. Third one, fourth one, I could do it in my sleep. So definitely I learned from the first one.
What about you, Chanel?
I would have to, echo that statement, especially because we are in franchising. That is kind of the beauty of franchising, is that it is very repeatable. It's streamlined. It's a blueprint. And so I always tell folks, even when I'm mentoring, that your hardest one is going to be your first one. That goes for financing and all of those other, challenges that you'll face. But after that, this second spa that we just opened, like you said, we could do it with our eyes closed. So much more seamless. We're literally already looking at a third and fourth location.
Oh my goodness.
That's awesome. Opened in December of 21. So it is 100%, it gets easier.
You've both cracked the code in your respective industries, but it's interesting to know, did you have coaches when you were developing your businesses?
Well, let's say this. The individual that I met, I'm not going to say any names. She said that she was going to be my mentor. Once I got my license, I called her. I was excited. I was like, oh my God, guess what? I got my license. Her exact words to me were, your emergency is not mine. Figure it out. I literally had to learn this business on my own. And I do believe if I had not been self-taught, I would not be where I am today.
When you started, I thought the story was going to go a completely different way. I was not ready for where that story went. What about you, Chanel? Did you have coaches or no?
So not necessarily, not like a mentor or anything, but my mom, I credit her to, like, not an outside mentor, I should say, but my mom is the savviest businesswoman I know. And I'm so grateful that I get to do business with her, and she's my mom. So I definitely had her to guide us throughout this whole process. And because we didn't have a lot of representation, and we still kind of don't, it's growing. It's important for us to be mentors. So my mom and my sister and I, we take mentoring calls every single week. We're constantly like sewing back into our community and educating them on franchising, because we do understand like how important that is, that mentorship piece. But no, we didn't have anybody. We did have the support of the franchise brands, which is again like the blessing and like the benefit of going into franchising. You had a real estate person and, you know, so on and so forth. So you definitely had that support. But as far as like an outside mentor, it was just my mom. And now we're positioning ourselves to be that for other folks.
Great stuff. How important are business coaches when initially developing your business? Because some people want to coach, some people don't. Is it necessary, or can you do without it?
I personally think it is necessary, 100%. For the reason of even things now that we're telling like our mentees, it's like things that are saving you hundreds and thousands of dollars, like how to better negotiate your lease and how to negotiate your franchise agreement, so on and so forth. So in my mind, yeah, you may have to pay for a business coach or invest in that, but the lessons or just the knowledge that you can gain from someone who's already done it, it's the ROI is there. So I definitely think it is necessary. But if you don't have access to it, then sometimes you got to figure it out yourself. But if you have access to it, I say, why not?
Okay. What about you, Donzella?
I say a coach is very, very, very important. The reason why I say that coaches are important is because they've gone through it and they're able to share the mistakes and things like that with you, versus not having a coach. You have to make your mistakes and you're learning from your mistakes. And a lot of times people either, don't have the money to afford a coach, and they want to go to Google, and search and things like that. But normally what happens is, Google does have answers. Unfortunately, sometimes it will take you from the beginning and it'll take you back to the beginning again, and you can make so many mistakes. So that's why I think that coaches are so important, because they can get you on the right track and keep you on the right track.
We're in a day and age where everybody is a CEO. Everybody has a business, and that's a really great thing.
Yeah.
But how do you know when you're at the point in your business where you need a coach? Because a lot of us get up and go, but some of us are not ready. How do you know when it's okay, you know what, it's time to get a coach?
I would say when I felt as though I needed a coach, that was in the beginning, because I knew nothing. So with the training that I have now, I educate and consult and coach individuals. I feel as though everyone needs a coach, because especially if they don't know the industry, right? Mm-hmm. So when I was going through, the beginning stages, I definitely needed a coach, but there are unfortunately people out here that are afraid to share, right? Because they're thinking that it's competition. Unfortunately, if you're great at what you're doing, there's no competition whatsoever. And like I said, I'm willing to share. I'm willing to educate. Why? Because I know what I'm worth. I know what it is that I'm going to be sharing with you. And I want you to be just as successful or even more successful than what I am. But like I said, there are hundreds of people out here that are doing what I'm doing. But we all have our different management styles. We teach differently, but unfortunately, a lot of people don't look at it that way. They're always thinking that it's about competition.
In my opinion, and just from what we do as far as coaching and mentoring, I think one of the most critical places to hire a coach is in the beginning. So for us, and I think obviously it's, there's levels to it, and throughout your journey, you should probably seek coaching. But for us, one of the main things that we focus on is how to choose the right brand for you.
Yes.
That is like the foundational thing, right? Like you want to make sure that you're aligning yourself with the right franchise brand that makes sense for your goals, your personal goals, your career goals. And so for us, like that is like one of the main things that we talk about, how to align yourself with the right financing partner, different things like that. So in our particular case, I believe like that the very beginning, once you say, okay, I'm ready, I'm jumping in, I think that it's best to kind of get aligned at that point. And then of course, when you go from one unit to 2 or 3, then there may need some coaching there on how to operate in multi-unit environment and different things like that. So I think there's definitely, different places where you may need coaching, but I always say like in the beginning, because also what we talk about is it right for you? Because that's the other question, right? Like,
this is true.
Franchising even right for you, or should you be and do something independent like you're doing, yourself, or do you want to follow a blueprint and a model? So there's so many questions that you have to ask yourself, and I think that beginning step is so critical to your success.
You gave me a perfect segue when you said how to choose the right brand for you. That's very important. And you said something earlier, Donzella, about how different coaches have different styles. How do you choose the right coach for you? Because every coach might not be necessarily the right coach for you.
Yeah. So basically, I believe that you have to watch and see what others are doing. How are they branding themselves, right? How are they treating others? So I believe you have to see how their business is being run. And if I see that they're doing something that I may want to model, then I would reach out and say, hey, you know what? I like how you're doing this, or I like how you're doing that. Would it be a possibility for you to coach me or mentor me? But unfortunately, a lot of times, like I said earlier, that people are afraid to ask for help. Right? They want to be that person to say, I have all the answers or I can do it. But there's nothing wrong with having somebody coach you, because that's just only going to make you better.
Absolutely. I know for me now, as I reach out to mentors, I'm always looking at what are they doing something that I want to be doing? Are they in a place where I'm trying to get to? So I always look at that, but I agree with what you said, Donzella, as far as do their values align with yours? And things like that. So I think that would be the biggest thing, is kind of do their values align, and is their trajectory, in a way that you want to go as well.
Right. Absolutely.
We talked about what makes a good coach, but you have to also be coachable. What makes a good trainee? And have you ever had to fire someone that you were coaching?
You know what? Everything isn't for everyone. I'm going to say that. Everything isn't for everyone. So I just had a seminar on Saturday, and I had over 40 people in my seminar. And not everybody needs to be an assisted living owner. Right. Not everyone has a passion for it. And the first thing they'll say is, Donzella, I took care of my grandmother and my grandfather. Sis, we all took care of our grandmothers and our grandfathers, but that does not necessarily mean that you need to be an owner. You know what I mean? So sometimes I let people down gently, and I'll say, unfortunately, I don't think that this business is for you, and this is why. I like to give them a why, or maybe right now you're not in a position that you need to, execute at this particular moment, and this is why.
Yeah, and I definitely think what makes a good trainee or mentee is like you said, being coachable, being open to feedback, and definitely coming with their questions ready, and just being serious. I think you have to know when you're ready for coaching, because I do have some folks that come to us and they're like, oh, I'm interested, and it's but you're not ready. You're not ready to really take that jump. And I think that's when you want to kind of reach out for that mentor or for that coaching, is when you are truly ready to take that next step.
We've been using the word coach and the word mentor interchangeably. I would like to know, is there a difference between a mentor and a coach? And if so, what is the difference?
I would say, I'm sorry, I think coach and mentor are kind of the same, but different. I believe that a coach is a person that's coachable for another individual. I believe a mentor is somebody that is mentoring somebody or giving them information, but not necessarily coaching them.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
They're not as hands-on, maybe more like a consultant who sits back and goes, well, maybe you ought to do this. Think about that. But a coach is holding your hand. They're on the field. They're cheering you on, you know, all of that.
I would agree with that for sure.
Okay. talk to us about the specific coaching services that each of you offer.
So the coaching information that I offer, I have an Assisted Living Coach Academy. And with that academy, as I mentioned, I educate people and I teach people to open or start their own facilities. With that program, it's a 3-week coaching program that's online. And then we have a one-on-one call. And then we have a 2-hour Zoom call every Thursday. And then we have 1 6-hour intensive class on a Saturday. So that's when we are hands-on, we're jumping in head first. And, I'm challenging the individuals. And when they're done, they're like, whew, I didn't know it entailed this much. Thank you, but no thank you. So a lot of times you may think you know what it is until you're really in it, and sometimes it's not as easy as you think. And a lot of times, people are visual creatures, and they may say, oh, I like what he or she has on, or I like where he and she drives. And, we paid our dues. I've been doing this for 11 years. You don't just wake up one day and I arrived or you arrived.
Exactly.
You have to work at it. You have to grind. You have to hustle, and you have to get there. So it takes time.
And for the services that we offer, it was actually in the beginning of the pandemic. My mom and my sister and I were, again, on another 3-way call. I feel like that's where everything starts. But we're like, what did we wish we knew kind of before getting into this? And that's kind of how our coaching services got birthed. We also get inundated, whether it be from online or when we get press, oh, how did you get started? How do I get started? So we're like, look, instead of repeating this, 100 times, let's create an online course. So it's called So You Want to Buy a Franchise. And it is 10 modules that take you through everything from, again, like we discussed earlier, how to choose the right brand, how to build out your pro forma, how to get financing, whether it be traditional or non-traditional, everything under the sun, every topic from A to Z. And so that is a living class online that you can take at your own pace. You can go back to it as you kind of go through the journey. And then we also offer consulting packages, whether it be short-term consulting or like that hand-holding that we mentioned, that coaching, all the way from picking the right brand to your grand opening.
Yes. Awesome. Giving back through education is a great thing, because to whom much is given, much is required. But education is also a big revenue stream. How is that working out for the both of you guys?
So it's working out amazing for me. Education, I tell people, is not only going to school. Education is also going to seminars, going to workshops, or talking to individuals that are in your industry and that are a lot further than you are. And you're able to educate yourself through them. So a lot of times people think that you have to go to college, you have to go to school to get educated in the business that you're interested in. I was not a person, I didn't go to college. My mom did not force college on anybody. It was like, work a 9 to 5, get married and have children. That's what you did. But I did it backwards. I didn't have kids and I did it, whatever. But I was a 9 to 5er. And like I said, I knew nothing about entrepreneurship. My mother worked at the electric company for 30 years and she retired from there, and I followed her footsteps. But that's not the person that I wanted to be. I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to do different things, and I wanted to explore. I'm originally from Pennsylvania. I moved to Baltimore 11 years ago with nothing, and 11 years later, I have this academy, I have several assisted living facilities, and I love to give back to individuals. I love the elderly population. As I mentioned, they're aging gracefully, and they're living longer. This is an $83.2 billion business. And like I said, people are living so much longer. I had an individual who just passed away. She was 104 years old.
Wow.
Yes.
What about you, Chanel?
So for us, giving back is a key value in our business. As I mentioned earlier, we do 15-minute mentor calls for folks. And that's kind of like our philanthropic side of things. But then obviously, outside of that, we did, like you said, we paid our dues and we put our time in. So if you need more than that, then that is where, that's where you're going to need to invest. And I always love, we laugh about it, but everyone's like, oh, I have a quick question for you. And we're always like, there are no really quick questions.
This is true.
half the time I'll get on some of these calls and they're like, oh, well, tell me about financing. And I'm like, are you kidding? Like, that is a whole like hour and a half, 2 hour, like intensive that we could sit down and talk about. So we do those calls. But of course, like if you're ready to really invest, like you're going to need to actually invest in the consulting and or the course and get that knowledge. But giving back is a big part of our business.
Chanel and Donzella, I am pumped up. I am excited. So I know everybody else is. I'm like, I want an assisted living facility. I want a tropical smoothie. I definitely want a hand juice. I want everything. So how do people reach you to patronize your services, your coaching services?
So people can reach me at the Assisted Living Coach on Instagram or Donzella Burton on Instagram, or they can go to www.theassistedlivingcoach.com. That's the way that you can get in touch with me.
Yes. And I'm also on Instagram. It's just chanel.grant. And for our business coaching, it is healthylivingventures.teachable.com. We'll take you there. Also, if you're just interested in just the consulting side of things and not the online course, you can just send us an email. It's healthylivingventures@gmail.com.
Thank you, ladies, so much. Continue doing what you are doing. Continue being leaders and an inspiration in your community. Take care.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
So, what are you getting again from for Christmas? Oh, it's a hot mic. I'm sorry. You know how people come on and they say crazy things, and like the president will say something like, "You son of a gun," you know, all of those good things they say off the mic. We were not going to do that today because we knew whether we were going to be live. All right? Where's your passion, everybody? Where's your passion? If you're here, you're not here just because you want to get on another live stream and just, no, you're here because something said today could change your life, can move your business. You can, you know, they say iron sharpens iron. And these women are sharpening everybody, okay? And if you're not sharp by now, you stay tuned. You get sharper. You know, you can actually get sharper by just being around. Where does that iron sharpen iron? It's just like, you know what I mean? It's just like you just got to be around it. You have to be around the fire. It's been fireside chats. It's been iron sharpening iron. It's been ladies just sharing how they pushed to get to the place that they needed to be. But everything they had was passion. You can, you know, some people just have no passion. And you can't read anything that they're selling. You know, I'm thinking about going into business. You really are, huh? Is that really what you wanted to do? I mean, you ready to fire your boss with that passionless? No, we need the passion. And now we're going to go into the passion. Misha Green, you're back. Hey, you know, it just feels like old times, right? That's the Chicken Box every Thursday at noon on the Afro Americans Facebook page. All right, speak your truth. But we're speaking the truth of the passion of the nonprofit. I used to think a long time ago that nonprofit meant that you didn't make any money. Newsflash, that is not what nonprofit means. Absolutely. So Dana, why don't you introduce one of our speakers, your namesake? What? Is it hard for a Dana to introduce a Dana?
Right, no. So Misha is back, as Kevin mentioned. Mentioned, with two nonprofit all-stars. Dana Carr with Leaders of Tomorrow. She's the executive director. It's a arts organization that's committed to delivering interactive and engaging arts curriculum in classrooms. We need
that art back in the schools badly. Thank you, Dana.
So it's in after-school programs to underserved children, and it serves more than 3,200 people. Well, actually, community members and 30,000 students.
Wow. Come on. Give it up for Dana. Listen, underserved, bringing art. It has to be some outlets for our kids. It has to be. Thank you very much.
Yes, and then also, Misha will be speaking with Tiffany Majors. She's with the Greater Baltimore Urban League. And as president and CEO, she helps African Americans and other minorities secure economic self-reliance, parity, power, and civil rights. And they will be talking about some insights if you're interested in starting a nonprofit.
The passion of nonprofit, ladies, women who win. We're here. We're here for it all. Come on, let's get it. Come on, passion. Where's your passion? Come on, bring the passion.
I am so elated to be here with these amazing women who win. We have been backstage having fun and cutting up, and I know this panel is going to be dynamic and didactic for all of you today. These are truly women who win, and today we are going to be talking about the power and passion of the nonprofit. So without further ado, let's jump into the passion of the nonprofit panel. Our first question is, as a leader of a significant nonprofit, how much of your time is dedicated to funding and how much to community engagement? And why don't we start with you, Dana? And Dana and Tiffany, I should both say, in your intros or in answering this question, can you also give us a little bit of an intro as to who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. So thank you so much for having me. My name is Dana Carr, and I am the Executive Director of Leaders of Tomorrow Youth Center. And we are an arts education nonprofit organization. We serve in the state of Maryland and also in DC, all around arts education programming, not only for youth, but also for families. So we do a lot of parent engagement. We do summer, school-based, and after-school arts classes. And so, the question around fundraising and allocating time to community engagement is kind of tough because I think that, with the work that we do, it's not always that I am, proactively thinking that this is fundraising. But I think that, we're 100% connected to the community all the time because we are going out and working in schools, in churches, in community and rec centers, again, working with the young people in their families. So the community engagement is always present. And I'd like to think that, the fundraising sort of happens as a byproduct of that because people see, the work that we're doing, see hopefully the impact that we're making, see the power of the arts. And then they're compelled to want to learn more. They're compelled to want to give and to support the mission and the vision of the organization, trying to find out how they can pour into a young person's education that is inclusive of the arts. And so it's just something I think, again, it's hard to say, 20% or this amount of hours. It's just something as a nonprofit, of course, you have to always be thinking about. And I think it's definitely important to think about that in ways that are creative and not just necessarily, traditional in terms of like a fundraising event or a donor campaign, but what are all of the different ways, going back again to that community engagement, that we can engage individuals around our mission and vision so that they will be excited and interested to find out how to support.
Thank you. Engaging people to understand the power of the arts. And Tiffany, how about you? Tell the people a little bit about yourself and how you're able to allot time and dedicate time to fundraising, to your community engagement.
Sure. My name is Tiffany Majors. I'm the president and chief executive officer of Greater Baltimore Urban League. And it also, as Dana has said, it's an honor to meet with you and speak with our community in regards to our community engagement and the work that we do. Our work is service. Everyone that is on our team, our heart and passion and our desires are to serve. So we do that in every walk of life and every part of our work. As Dana said, she could not have literally spelled it out in definition better. Community engagement is imperative, and that's what we do. A part of fundraising is never ending for a nonprofit. We don't have the corporate I guess I would say annual funds, long-term funds that many other companies have. So for nonprofit leadership, a lot of our work is nonstop chasing, to be perfectly honest. We look for long-term support where we can have some type of support that's long engaging beyond 3 and 5 years, but quite often enough, it's an annual support donation or grant. So there's never a time that we're not writing grants and seeking funding. At the same time, out in the community, identifying what the needs of our community is. For Greater Baltimore Urban League, we have 4 different pillars. Currently, we work a Saturday leadership program where we support youth one Saturday per month. And that is a college and career readiness program where we expose them to the college life. And that is HBCUs as well as PWIs. I guess 3 years ago, we were able to take 14 students to Google and YouTube and give them that experience to speak with Black entrepreneurs, Blacks in business, Black professionals in the STEM arena. We also expose our youth to different financial literacy programs. This Saturday, actually, we are having a youth entrepreneurship pop-up where we are exposing the youth to an opportunity to sell their products. So we will have 20 youth throughout Maryland. They're not actually our Saturday leadership youth, but we are opening up an arena, an event for them to sell their products. And it's for 24 and under to show them networking, to give them the opportunity to have be in a like environment, see individuals like them and be able to coordinate efforts. They will also, because from that, they will have to partake in one-to-one coaching sessions, 5, and they will all receive a $1,500 micro business grant. Another program that we support is our, it was termed initially Returning Citizens Program, but I don't like that term. It pretty much sets a barrier, I believe. So we have a program for individuals that had involvement with the justice system, and we work with them to get them trained, employed, support them in getting their identifications, connecting them with all of our partners who seek to employ individuals at Bank of America, Giant, Truist, those are a few of our partners, University of Maryland, and we provide the education and training and then build that pipeline so that they can go directly into employment with having a criminal background. And our last program is our Entrepreneurship Center, Raymond B. Haysbert Entrepreneur Center. And that is a center that supports entrepreneurs who have intentions on starting a business or who are already in business. Also individuals that desire to start a nonprofit. And once they learn, they desire that I may want to work for somebody a little bit more until we get into this nonprofit field. But we provide workshops, webinars, and one-to-one coaching to support them in their entrepreneurial needs.
Wow, that is so much important work. And I think a perfect transition into my next question, which is about how we can start our nonprofits. And so for a person looking to start a nonprofit, what are the 3 most important elements that they should have in place to do so? And since Tiffany just talked about some of the programming that's done with that with the Greater Baltimore Urban League, why don't we start with you?
Sure. I think what's imperative, one, in nonprofits is relationship building, and having a clear understanding and a clear mission of what you actually intend to do. What purpose are you going to serve and what is your target population? Nonprofit is imperative in the support systems that we provide to marginalized communities. And as much as I try to stray away from saying this, Maryland is very political. With nonprofits, it is very high, on the list of being in that arena, having conversations with your constituents, going to Annapolis and advocating for your youth, for your residents, for healthcare, for jobs, and so forth. However, as a nonprofit, we are nonpartisan. So there's a very fine line that you have to tread, to make sure that you don't cloud those relationships. However, you need to make sure that your elected officials are aware of the support and need that you have within your city. Secondly, you have to really understand what a nonprofit is. Many individuals do not realize what a nonprofit is. They believe, I want to start a nonprofit. Everyone begins with that passion in their heart and what they believe their purpose is. So really identifying, yes, honing down on the purpose, your mission and your vision, as well as what support will you have and where will you go to seek funding. Nonprofit getting funding is difficult, and it is a very competitive market. I have a program that supports youth, and so does Dana. However, we're not in competition, and many individuals work in silos and believe that, well, we have to get this money, we have to sit on the side. You know, if we do this or we have this, we can fill this void, we'll get this grant. But today, it's about collaborations and partnerships. And that's something that new individuals coming into this field must understand, that it's not about competition. It's not about doing the same thing. It is so many individuals out here to serve that we can do the same thing and do it well and collaborate in that same arena. So it's also imperative that we uplift one another and that we're able to take our peers into rooms that they are not often called in, smaller nonprofits. If we have a larger name, we need to collaborate and partner with them on funding opportunities so that we can spread the wealth and spread. We're not high on arts. So I would love to work with Dana and say, you do this art piece, we'll do the entrepreneurship or college career readiness. So I think that's imperative for individuals that have interest in breaking through this nonprofit world, because it's not it's a beast out here. It's not an easy walk.
It's a beast out here, y'all. But look at how these women who win are collaborating on the call as we speak. This is how you do it. Dana, can you add a little bit of insight again on, if a person's looking to start a nonprofit, what are some 3 of the most important elements that they should have in place?
Yes, definitely. Ditto to what Tiffany mentioned, just the collaboration and the relationships is just so important. And she touched on something else I was going to say, is that there's so many nonprofits in Maryland. And so, we don't have to compete with each other. There's definitely space, plenty of people to serve in a number of different ways. And I think that collaboration piece is so important. One of the elements that I was going to mention, I think, is being creative. So again, there are tons of organizations, even in Maryland, even specifically in Baltimore, that are arts-based organizations that might be serving the youth through the arts. But I think, and this is my arts background coming into play, it's important to be creative, again, to know what your mission is, to know who you want to serve, and most importantly, how you want to serve those people, how you want to serve those individuals, and what is going to make the way that you do it unique, right? What is going to make the way that you do it special or stand out. And so I think that that's something that we definitely at LTYC, try to emphasize and think about programs again that are going to, fill a need, right? And again, do it in a way that somebody else is not doing it. I think vision is super important. You have to have a vision, you have to make it plain. And the vision is really about seeing beyond the moment. I think, again, people get really excited because they want to, serve people and help and support their communities, and all of that's great. But I think you definitely, as a strong leader, have to see beyond just that moment, and how the vision can grow, and how, again, you can impact communities, beyond today and for, years to come. And that's sustainability. That's why there's so many organizations that have been able to, last. And then there's some who, are here and gone, within a couple of years. And then the last thing that I would say is just really being able to problem solve, right? Because again, as Tiffany mentioned, funding is always going to be a challenge. And so you have to, again, kind of think through all of the different funding streams that you might be able to access and utilize to support your organization and what it is that you're trying to do. And just, again, we look at COVID. I mean, that was something that none of us, could plan for, saw coming, and yet we all had to, be problem solvers and pivot and shift. And we're still here. So I think that just having the ability to problem solve and think through, and again, that's where that collaboration can come into play, whether it's with your own internal team or you're talking to other nonprofits and saying, how can we serve this community? Let's get together. You do this great. I do this great. Like, let's, create a program. So definitely, that spirit of collaboration and just problem solving through the issues together.
Thank you for that. And how many of y'all out there are already like trying to think about your creative and visionary and problem solving ways that can get you to be a person who is a strong leader, particularly if you're looking to be in the nonprofit sector, but everywhere, right? We can apply those lessons and values that these awesome women who win are sharing for any and everything that we do. Final question, and we just talked a little bit about this, Dana, so thank you for that. Post-COVID, what type of programs do you all believe we will most need for communities of color? And why don't we start with you, Dana, since you hinted on that a bit and the strength and resilience that we've had to have.
Sure. I think that there are a number of supports that are going to be needed in this post-COVID world. And so I'll speak to some of the things that we are looking at, again, as primarily a youth serving organization and with the arts. The pandemic has taken a toll on all of our mental health, social and emotional and mental health. And so those are really the sorts of programs that we are developing and looking at in a post-COVID world, again, using the arts as a tool to be able to help students with, grief, who have suffered loss through the pandemic, who have suffered, some sort of trauma due to the pandemic, and just even looking at how long students were out of school. I have an older child, and just the fact that they were not in school for a year and a half, and how that has not only impacted them academically, but just their social skills, right? Not being around their peers and in school for a year and a half. And so I think that, for us, it's about, again, really building those social and emotional supports, even within our current programming, to really make sure that we can, as much as possible, shore up students' mental health, challenges, and also being, a liaison to point them in the right direction for other resources, supports, and again, things we may not do, but we can refer them and say, hey, here's a great therapist, paired with our arts mentoring program to further support them.
Thank you for that. All such important work, and through the arts, which everybody at the Afro knows is my favorite thing. How about you, Tiffany? What are some of the things that we really need to see in place to support communities of color post-COVID?
Of course, Dana, follow her lead. Most importantly, something that we have identified is mental health, and that's with everyone. Everyone's mental health has suffered and continues to suffer. Everyone says post-COVID, what's going to happen when COVID is over? COVID is here for a good while. It's not 6 months away. We have to understand that all of the transition and the pivots that we made, we will have to continue. There's not a go back to what existed. So we have to identify ways that our Black and brown people are going to be able to sustain. And some things that we've identified, I won't say identified, that were amplified and that others seem to take interest in now, was that there is a huge disparity of individuals in city, county, and throughout the state of Maryland. When COVID hit, we know that our peers in local counties, Prince George's County, Anne Arundel County, they went home with laptops and tablets. We have a name of Urban League, but many individuals really get us confused with National Urban League. We are an affiliate of National Urban League. So we are our own small nonprofit. All of the names that you hear, Geico, and they are partnering with Amazon, that's National Urban League. That's not Greater Baltimore Urban League that received $1 million. We might get $10,000. So when we pivot our services, something that we did not have was healthcare. We didn't provide healthcare services, nor do we provide laptops. We actually went out and spent $57,000 initially, and then another $80,000 to purchase laptops for city students. We were supposed to get hotspots, but we didn't. And we wanted to build, actually with Parks and People, a tower in Druid Hill and Mondawmin, because there are still several areas in Baltimore City where there is no connectivity, as well as the basic principles of how to use a laptop. We identified that we gave out laptops, and some of our students didn't know how to utilize it. They could turn it on, but some still don't have email. So we have to realize that there are so many different basic needs that our youth and families need. We often either identify the students or we identify those in returning citizens, but it's imperative that we unify and think about the entire family, the entire Black family, because the entire Black family suffered during this pandemic and is still suffering. We still have students that are nowhere near where they should be as far as education. And we need to make sure that we wrap them with mental health services. We provide yoga on every one of our meetings with our students and meditation, but we have to be sure that we holistically wrap them with the support, the mental health, ensure that their entire family is secured. Because you have babies that were identifying, am I going back to school or am I going to go back to Walmart and work? Because this is what I did for a year. So you have some that are still blackface at Walmart and still in education. And you have some that are now really 2 years behind, although they are still sitting in the classes. So I think what's imperative going beyond is to make sure that we don't believe once COVID is gone, that we end those resources, that we wrap the entire family, that we continue with the mental health support, and that we amplify the diversity and the disparity in Black communities throughout Baltimore. They say we have the most money, but I'm still trying to find it. So that we advocate. Advocacy is very important. We can't decide where we're going to open our mouth for the sake of a dollar. We need to open our mouths and say what is necessary and provide the truth of what is being delivered to those in poverty. And that's something that must be carried during COVID, after COVID, when everyone feels that we've moved on. All of those things are imperative throughout the life of Black and brown people.
Well, there you have it, everybody. We're here delivering the truth to you all today. Oh, these women just have me shook. I got goosebumps and all, because the work you're doing is so incredibly important. Any final thoughts for the viewers out there? We'll start with Dana.
I would just say, just kind of going off of what Tiffany said, it's important to advocate for our children, for our families, and most importantly, for ourselves. So just encourage everybody continue to do the work and, to continue serving, because that's what it's all about.
And Tiffany, why don't you wrap us up?
I would like to say thank you to Afro for continuing to uplift our nonprofits, our Black women in leadership, because Black women in leadership is an extremely difficult job to do. It's not the usual walk in the park, but to also support your nonprofits, support the small nonprofits that are not nationally known. And if you go into a room and the room doesn't necessarily suit you, there might not be a college and career readiness program, make sure that you mention LTCY, that you mention, oh, I know this program. It's imperative as we move on to stop the silos and try to work collaboratively more often and mention those names when the people are not there. So I think that's imperative for us as Black communities, as small nonprofits, and women. I don't believe in the women of color, but Black women, Black and brown women who are in leadership, that we do more of pulling that person up and supporting them and putting them in certain places. You don't always have to be at the table, but as long as you have a conversation that's a part of that table, that's imperative.
Thank you. I think that we all can confidently try to get a seat at that table, or at least figure out what's on that table from this panel. The passion of the nonprofit truly exudes through the both of you, and we thank you for the powerful work that you do, and thank you for being here with us and for truly being leaders and women who win.
Thank you.
Hello, thank you for continuing to tune in to the Afro-American Second Annual Black Business Matters Women Who Win Virtual Expo. My name is Dana Peck, Director of Digital Solutions, and we are excited to bring to you another interview by our very own Misha Green with Congresswoman Donna Edwards. Congresswoman Edwards became the first Black woman elected to represent Maryland's 4th Congressional District. A Democrat, she served in that role until 2017. The district includes PG County and parts of Anne Arundel County. She's been gearing up for a campaign to return to this seat for a few months after Representative Brown announced he would vacate the seat to run for Maryland's Attorney General position. And stated recently, she said that the fact is the 4th Congressional District is not getting its fair share from Washington, and she wants to fix that. She plans on going back with more seniority than most of the people in that building, making sure that the 4th Congressional District does not just have a seat at the table, but a seat at the forefront. Please enjoy this next segment on Women in Politics. Why not you?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Women in Politics, Why Not You panel. Oh, I love this title, not only because as a Black woman, I have to question, why have I never been interested in politics myself, as opposed to, just writing about it all the time for the Afro. But I also think because we have a woman who has had a long trajectory in politics and is still on the grind, as you see with that sign in the background. So I am so elated to be here with, she has former Congresswoman, but once a Congresswoman, always a Congresswoman, Donna F. Edwards. How are you doing today?
I am doing great, and I am so excited to be here and to have this conversation. I can barely stand it to wait.
I have been really excited about this conversation because you, as someone who's grown up in the DMV, you are really just someone who I've admired for so long. Obviously, I've seen you on campaign trails, on television, and of course, representing the 4th District of Maryland in the United States Congress. And so we have a lot to talk about today because I know that your journey has not just been helping your constituents and the people of the United States, but it's also helping other people who are working to follow in your footsteps. So are you ready to jump into this panel?
I am so ready for this discussion.
Yay. Okay, so you know me, I like to do fun games and icebreakers. I don't know if it's the theater background or what, but I have a little game called Women Who Win Game Show. And it just means that you'll answer the question or complete the phrase that I'm going to give you. And so it all is from the notion of as a woman who wins. And in this case, as a woman who wins, who's also running for office. Are you ready?
I'm scared and ready.
That's perfect. Scared is okay, because I hear if your job doesn't scare you, run. So first fun question. You have a big campaign speech to make for a tough crowd. What are you eating for breakfast?
Well, I'm eating a full breakfast because I want to make sure that when I go, my feet are firmly planted on the ground. And usually that means for me a bagel and some yogurt and some fruit and about 16 ounces of coffee.
That
straight coffee, black.
That sounds like somebody who's not only ready to win, they're ready to take over. I love that. So let's get into the nitty gritty of things. And I want to look from the perspective of where we are. We're still dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic. Luckily, numbers are lowering and we're not seeing as many lives lost. So thank goodness for that. But I want to sort of assess how you're doing in relation to all of that, but also how you believe women in politics have played an integral role in addressing the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as sort of how you would have done things in this, and if you're incorporating some of that rhetoric into this campaign.
Well, it's been a long 2 years, I think, for all of us. And I think I have struggled like others have of being mostly stuck at home. I do broadcast television from my living room, so I've been able to invite millions of people every week for the last 2 years into my private space. And so I'm getting used to that. But I think that I feel really confident about where we are. And part of the reason that I do is because I know, like, millions of other people around the country, and certainly here in Maryland, I got my first vaccine. I got the second vaccine. I got a booster. If they offer another one, I'm going to get that too. I've been wearing my mask like crazy. I have all of these really funky masks that I am going to be sad to actually give up because they match my clothes, they match my furniture, you name it. And so we've adjusted. But I tell you, this pandemic has really taken the largest toll on Black communities and Black families, both in terms of the lives lost. I know that I've lost family members to COVID, and others who are suffering long haul COVID. And so we don't know what that looks like in the next decade or 2 decades. And Black-owned businesses have suffered tremendously, especially women-owned businesses. Women actually have borne the brunt of the COVID pandemic because no matter how much the guys say that they do stuff at home, it turns out that women are still the principal caregivers. They're the ones who see to the children's school, and they've been doing that and juggling, having classroom in one room and, going to work on their computer on Zoom or whatever platform in another room. And so it has taken a heavy toll. And that means to me that from a political standpoint, we may have injected some resources into the economy, which I think has been very important. And women have been at the forefront of that in our state and also in the nation in terms of making sure that family needs, that the care economy is invested in, given where we are. But there is so much more to do to fully recover. And I go back to the 2008-9 recession, where it took Black families longer and more to recover than it did other families. And I think that we are facing that right now. And it's going to be incumbent on every politician, and I will be one of them in the United States Congress, making sure that our communities not just recover, but thrive post-pandemic.
Now, you know that I should know better than being on mute in this time. Yes, I really appreciate you, Congresswoman Edwards, raising attention not only to the fact that we have been at the forefront of this fight, but also the ones in the households controlling, managing our children, managing the education side of things, as well as trying to make it on our own during these times. So thank you for that. Our next question is about your trajectory into politics. This is no new field for you. And I'm interested in what inspired you to begin your journey into politics, as well as what makes you continue to want to be in this fight decades later.
Well, first of all, I didn't start out as a politician. I started this journey really as a mom and a member of my community, fighting for the things that we wanted in our communities in terms of our roads and our schools and our economic development. And I describe myself sometimes as an accidental politician. And what I mean by that is that I knew that we were going in the wrong direction. And I went around and tried to find somebody who would run against the incumbent member of Congress, who would challenge him to do better for our communities. And I couldn't find anyone. And so one morning, literally on Good Friday, I woke up, I looked in the mirror, and I said, Donna, you should run. And, classic Donna, I talked back to myself and told myself I should run. So it's great when you can get validation from the reflection in the mirror. And I drove to Annapolis. I filled out a couple of pieces of paper. I wrote the check for the filing fee, and I became a candidate for Congress. And part of the reason that I share that story is because there's not a single woman who's listening today, who's in our audience today, who is not a politician or a politician to be. And frankly, I think that we need more people who come out of their lived experience in the halls of Congress and in all of our elected offices, because it's through our experience that we understand what the needs are in our communities. And I think that that is an important voice to have in the Congress of the United States, and it's an important voice to have in our state and throughout our local leadership. And so there's not a single one of us that should be exempt. Maybe we work and collect a paycheck for a living. Maybe we sign the paychecks for somebody else, or we're a nurse or a doctor or a lawyer or a union member. You should think about yourself as a prospective member of a school board, of a county council, of a city council, as a mayor, as a governor. Because if our voices aren't at all of those tables, it's just like Shirley Chisholm said, if there's not a seat at the table, I'm bringing my folding chair. And that's exactly what I did when I ran for Congress.
Shout out to groundbreaking Shirley Chisholm, but thank you, Congresswoman Edwards. I'm super inspired. I'm like, I can be a politician. And all of you all out there, as she said, there's not one of us on this call today who does not have that potential. So I'm really, really excited about this. Next fun question. Are you ready?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So this is for all of us out here who have not really put our politician hats on. You're a pro at this, I know. But we're prepping for our first campaign meeting. What are 3 things that we need on the agenda?
Well, I know when I'm getting ready to meet anyone, whether it's in an office or at an event, I want to know who I'm meeting. I want to know what their issues and concerns are. And then I want to match some of the concerns that I have with theirs so that we can come to some common understanding and be able to have a conversation. And so those are the things that I do to prepare for any meeting. And I think that those are things that we prepare for, whether we're in business or running nonprofits or in our ordinary jobs. And that's what I do to get ready. And it doesn't mean that I'm not nervous. It doesn't mean that, something can be thrown my way that could be a monkey wrench, but it means that I actually feel prepared for whomever the audience is.
Thank you for that. I know we can all take that in our daily lives. So the next question I have is about how we can find some ways to feel prepared to run for political office. And what do we as women need to be ready to begin to hit that campaign trail? I know in your last answer, you said preparation is key. So this is a perfect transition.
Well, money, message, and momentum. Those are the things that I learned. You have to be comfortable asking people for money. I spend right now in this campaign about 40 hours a week picking up the phone and calling people who are perfect strangers, describing myself and asking them to invest in my campaign. It also means that there are a lot of people who hang up on you, who don't answer your call, who will never return your phone call. But for every one of those, or maybe every 10 or 15 of those, there's somebody who's willing to make an investment in your campaign. And I think we, as women, we're accustomed to asking people for money to support a cause or an event or an activity. We are less accustomed to asking people to invest in us, whether that is asking a banker to invest in our business, or an investor to invest in our business, or somebody to write a campaign check to support a campaign. And so I think you have to get comfortable with asking for money, because if you don't have money, how are you going to communicate with voters? How are you going to be able to get out there and knock on doors and make phone calls and run television ads and print palm cards and the things that you need? So you have to have that money, and then you have to know why you're running. I think it's really important to understand yourself, why you're running. And it is not just to get a title. It has to be more than that. It has to be because you have a deep passion and concern for your community, that you want to be a servant leader. I know that that's what drives me. And if I don't have that passion driven by something other than just putting a title in front of my name, then I need to sit it out. And that's the decision that I made going into this into this race. I served 5 terms in the House of Representatives. I came in a special election. I hit the ground running. But what that means is I have almost a decade of seniority and experience and understanding about how to get the job done in a very complicated environment, much more complicated than a decade ago. And it is with that that I go in with a passion to serve, to make sure that we begin to deliver on some of those things I talked about earlier that are going to be our post-pandemic needs in our communities, both for the 4th Congressional District in Maryland, for our state, and of course, for our republic. And believe me, our republic is in danger right now.
I have chills as I listen to you, Congresswoman Edwards. Your passion is just so clear, and it exudes in so many ways. And so you guys remember, we need the 3 M's if we want to get into this world. But you know, the messaging that you carry within the 3 M's, I think, would not be the same if you weren't that caring mom and caring resident of and caring United States citizen who wants to see some change in the community. Question 4, or technically it's a little bit more because we've thrown our fun ones in there, but of the real ones. Who are the people that have supported you during your time in politics? And what are some of the resources aspiring politicians should look into when considering running for office?
Well, such a good question, because I think in politics, you have friends who are temporary friends, who are political friends, but who aren't your real friends. And I think it's important always to know the difference. And so for me, my family, I'm grew up in a really close family. And part of the reason is because as siblings and with my parents, my dad was in the Air Force. And he spent 30 years in the United States Air Force. And I grew up in every region of the country. We traveled. I went to 14 different schools when I was growing up. And when you're in an environment like that, your best friends are your siblings. And fortunately, with 6 of us, there were enough, for a basketball team and an extra for a sub. And so I really rely on my family to keep me grounded. And what I love most is that it didn't matter that I was sworn into the United States House of Representatives by the first woman speaker, Nancy Pelosi. It didn't matter that I shook the hand of President Obama as he was coming onto the floor of the House to deliver a State of the Union message. When I showed up at dinner with my mom and my siblings, they ground me. They let me know that, I have to wait in line to get my plate served in the same way that they do. And I think it's important to have that kind of grounding so that you don't get lost in the meeting all the muckety mucks and having conversations with world leaders. Those things are really important to guide leadership, but they do not ground you in terms of who you are. And for me, that means that keeps me focused on real needs of my constituents and of our country.
I love that, because we all know there's nothing like family that reminds us who we are and whose we are. Oh goodness, that's amazing. I'm just envisioning the same woman who I've seen fight fearlessly in Congress, having to wait in line for her older siblings or whoever to get their plate of food.
Unfortunately, I'm the oldest sibling, but they make me wait.
That will tell you something, y'all, about family right there. That will tell you a lot about family, but that also shows you were born a servant, because you have to serve 5 other humans in addition to the people that you now have done so beautifully and well, as you said, over the course of a decade in Congress and since. Again, I have chills just listening to you today. So I'm curious, as a Black woman, why it has been important to have your voice part of these government conversations, not only locally, but of course nationally. And we talked a little bit offline about this in terms of the world of real estate. But of course, you've worn many hats of advocacy in Congress as a Black woman. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I will. And thank you for asking this question, because I think even as much progress as we have made in terms of education achievement, the growth of our small business growth for Black women-owned businesses, and in politics and all of the rest, we still have a long way to go. And when I think about the House of Representatives, I remember a statistic that, first of all, there are only 21% of the Congress are women. And of that 21%, I think it's about 5% are Black women. 5 to 7% are Black women. And so what that means is that for all of those 435 seats, plus the District of Columbia that are in that, and the other territories that are in the House of Representatives, we still are a minority of a minority of a minority. And that is important to know, because it means that all across the country, there are women who are getting ready to be and are prepared to lead now. And we have to make sure that we're training and investing in them so that they can run for office and so that they can win office, so that our voices can be heard. One of the important areas, I think, is especially around healthcare. We know, and I apologize for the phone, I don't even know how to turn it off. But we know
we're live. That's how it works.
We know that with healthcare, there are so many health disparities that affect our communities, and particularly Black women maternal health, and the dangers that Black women face when they face childbirth, that more children die in childbirth, that more women die in childbirth or become very, very ill. And these are issues that we can put on the table in a way that other legislators may not even think about. I'll give you one example of that. When I first came to Congress, I had spent some time going around to schools, looking, being in classrooms with educators. And I noticed that in some of our most difficult communities and most hard-pressed communities, our Title I schools, kids who receive free and reduced breakfast and lunch. And I know I would say to the teachers, why do they come in like over the weekend if I'd visit on a Monday, and they just rush to get to that breakfast? And the teachers would say to me, it's because they barely ate over the weekend. And I knew about a program called the After School Suppers Program. And the very first piece of legislation that I got passed when I became a member of Congress was to enable Maryland, which has a high proportion of students who receive free and reduced breakfast and lunch, to also get supper in their schools and their after school programs. And part of the reason that I was sensitive to that is my own experience when I was underemployed and newly separated from my husband, of struggling to put food on the table. And I would do a combination of using my paycheck that I got at the end of the week and going around to the various food pantries to get fresh fruits and other items to make sure that my son was able to eat a healthy meal. And I thought about those children, and we ask a lot of children. We ask them to show up at school, to be prepared, to do their homework, and all of those things. And there's not a single one of us in this room or in my living room who could do a decent day's work if you were hungry. And yet we expect hungry children to perform at their best. Those are things that government can do something about. And that is one of the reasons I want to go back into Congress, because I know that we continue to have pressing needs in all of our communities. And if I don't carry that voice, if Black women don't carry the voices of our children, our families, of women in our communities, then no one else will step up to the plate.
Thank you for that. That was really a thought-provoking answer. And again, a reason why we need you and other women out there to join this world of politics and realize that your voices are valuable and so necessary in this world where, look, Black women, as Congresswoman Edwards said, is only 5 to 7% of the U.S. House of Representatives. All right, a fun question before we wrap. You are low in the polls, but not giving up hope. What is your pump up song that keeps you going? And we're just saying that this is not happening for 2022, okay?
Exactly.
Yes.
You know, this is a completely made up question, but I will tell you that I am so motivated by so many women who are powerful women artists who really speak to me. And, you know, so should I go with I'm Every Woman, Shaka Khan version? Should I go with I Am Woman, Helen Reddy? Shall I go with Girl on Fire, Alicia Keys? I have a whole list from Taylor Swift to Lizzo to Shaka Khan in terms of the women who keep me motivated. And sometimes in my car, when I'm going to an event, I turn that music up really, really loud and I sing, even though I can't even carry a tune.
I love that. You know, so guys, I think that, and Congresswoman, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think even if you're not low in the polls and just want good pump up songs, can we steal that playlist of yours?
Absolutely.
I love that. Oh, those are great. So final question before we wrap, which is, do you have any further advice or last thoughts for someone out there who is pretty confident that they know they want to make a difference, but afraid to pull that trigger?
Well, first of all, we're all politicians. There's not a single aspect of our life that is not impacted by politics, whether those are politics of the moment or they are the future. And so I think we've got to get out of our skin in thinking there's some certain prototype that should run for and win elective office. Just throw that away, because if that is true, then it would mean that no Black women would really run, because the only people that you'd ever choose are men, because they already hold office anyway. And so I think we should each think of ourselves as able to run for office, work for some other woman who is running for office, financially support someone who's running for office, because we don't have, just like in business, women politicians, and particularly Black women, do not have the access to the kind of capital and people who write those big checks to run for office. And so we have to do it ourselves, but we have networks, we have our businesses, we have our sororities, we have our social networks And if you're spending money on a pair of shoes, skip it maybe for 1 month and write a check to somebody that you think should run for and win public office.
Absolutely. Oh, I am so fired up. Congresswoman Donna F. Edwards in the House, the Woman Who Wins Black Business Matters Conference, telling us about the importance of Black women in politics, but also why we should know that we're all politicians. And if we have that urge to go out and ensure that our voices are not only heard, but that we can make an impact in our community, then we can go out and do it. And Congresswoman Edwards is no newbie to this world. If she says we all can do it, we can all do it. Thank you so much, Congresswoman Edwards, for everything, for being here with us today, but also just for being a groundbreaking woman who wins every single day.
Thank you very much. I mean, this has been a real pleasure to participate. And, you know, one day when we're not in COVID, we're all going to get together and have a really good time. And then you will be able to call me just Congresswoman Donna Edwards, because this is going to be a win.
I am so looking forward to that moment. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Misha, and thank you, Congressman Edwards. And for those of you in the 4th District, you know what to do. So next up is Allie Walker, and Allie is such a committed woman who's winning. She is joining us all the way from Colombia. And Allie is an outgoing and highly proactive entrepreneur with a world of experience in bringing exciting new concepts and ideas to life by leveraging her range of skills in digital marketing, consulting, project management, product development, business transformation, and branding. As visionary and co-founder of the Black Queens NFTs, which you see in the background, she will be sharing with us and really demystifying what are NFTs and blockchains. So I encourage you to enjoy this segment that she's bringing to us today, and also visit the website blackqueens.io. And don't be afraid of the .io. That just means they're in tech. So Allie, here you go.
Hello, everyone. My name is Allie Walker, co-founder and visionary of the Black Queens NFT set. I'm also a marketing consultant and realtor in Orlando, Florida. I'm here to present blockchain NFT equals WTF. Trust me, the world of crypto and blockchain can be very, very confusing, and it's evolving on a daily basis. Hopefully this presentation can help answer some of the questions you may have. So first things first, what is an NFT? An NFT, or non-fungible token, which actually means non-replaceable, is a unique digital certificate that is stored on a blockchain and provides certain ownership rights in an asset, typically a digital one, such as a digital work of art. NFTs are non-fungible because each one is unique and holds a different value. NFTs include digital artwork, music, videos, collectibles, and more. The important thing to remember is that an NFT can only have one owner at a given time. Some examples of this would be avatars in a video game, digital collectibles, or even event digital tickets that like you would get for Ticketmaster for a concert. So next, what is a blockchain? A blockchain is a distributed database that records transactions, tracks assets, and builds trust. The unique thing about the blockchain is that all transactions are recorded permanently. Therefore, no one can ever delete the transaction. Due to the growing demand of cryptocurrency, blockchain technology has impacted several different industries like the real estate industry, offering a new way for buyers and sellers to connect with one another, essentially cutting out a lot of intermediaries, potentially reducing costs of the transaction. And actually, and ironically, the very first home was sold at auction as an NFT in February of this year in Florida. You will see all different industries begin to evolve. So, how do you buy an NFT? Well, you can purchase the art and mint it yourself. So it would go like this. You would set up a crypto wallet. The most commonly used crypto wallet, and which is a great tool to use for beginners, is called Coinbase. You then choose your NFT marketplace. Most popular right now, and the one that we will have our Black Queen set on, is called OpenSea. Once you have that established, you're going to connect it to. You connect your crypto wallet to your chosen marketplace. And of course, make sure you add money to your wallet. The most common token used right now for the purchase of NFTs is called Ethereum, also known as ETH. Don't forget the token. The value of the token actually changes on a regular basis from a minute, hour, or daily basis. Then you mint your NFT. What does it mean to mint? Well, it means you're putting it into the blockchain. And then you can actually decide how much in royalties you would like to add if your NFT gets sold. Every time you sell, your NFT sells, you actually can make a royalty from that sale. If you want to purchase an NFT already in the blockchain, you don't need to mint it. You just need to follow the steps above, set up your crypto wallet, choose your NFT marketplace, connect your crypto wallet to your chosen marketplace, find an NFT that you absolutely love. And typically NFTs have two options. They either have one price, a set price, or it's actually a bidding auction. So why should you buy an NFT? 4 main reasons. 1, the scarcity. Potentially and ideally, it'll appreciate over time. It becomes a collectible item. 3rd, utility. Some of the different NFTs, when they're sold, they come with perks and add-ons. And I'll explain what we're offering later on in the presentation. And 4th, it's an investment. It's an opportunity to make money when it gets traded. So I want to tell you a little bit about my Black Queen project. As I mentioned earlier, I am the co-founder and visionary of the Black Queen NFT set. This set's mission is to empower all Black women, regardless of their skin tone, shape, or size. I want all Black women to know that they are queens. This set will include the world's largest generative collection of 10,000 handmade, realistic, diverse women of color. The BQ set is based on Keisha, a powerful, ultra-realistic AI-generated woman created by combining random facial features of 1 million Black women from around the world, representative of the Black community across the globe. Using Keisha as a base image, we have added multiple sets of accessories, jewelry, hairstyles, makeup, and clothing across multiple themes. We have dessert themes, we have country themes, etc. Keisha represents the mother, the business professional, the student, the activist, the wife, the caretaker, the educator, breaking through all barriers. Black is beautiful no matter the race or shade. While growing up, I realized racism was still very prevalent. When I moved from an area rich in culture, diversity to a rural area where I felt different, I looked different. I was never Black enough, never white enough, and sometimes even mistaken for Hispanic. I've also experienced sexism, being passed over for an executive position simply because I was a female. I've been followed, picked on because of my features, and I was told I should be proud I went to college just because most Black people apparently do not. My experiences with both racism and sexism fueled a passion to educate the world and build up Black women of all shades. We will be featuring various Black women from all over the world who exemplify excellence in the community: business, entertainment, sports, media, politics, music, and education. In addition, 10% of initial proceeds will be donated back into Black crypto art to not only create generational wealth, but also opportunity. The Black Queen NFT set will launch March 2022. While the NFTs will be available online, we also plan to launch a custom line of essential oils and a merchandise line with custom merch platform namepress.com, featuring the digital artwork and furthering my mission of showcasing beautiful Black women of all shades. The Black Queen NFT set will be available at www.blackqueens.io and OpenSea. If you want any more information about NFTs, what to do, how to do it, or have just any general question, please feel free to reach out online via the contact form. Thanks so much.
This isn't a conversation about wealth, right? Wealthy people. This is a conversation about how do we preserve everything we're building to create a solid foundation for the generations that come after us to build upon.
I can't even begin to imagine how many people need the information in this episode, myself included.
We're going out with a bang, honey. We are going out strong, right, Cecily?
Yes, we are excited. This is going to be a great conversation, very informative, very educational.
She grew up between Maryland and California. She's a 3-time women's single tennis champion in Baltimore. Like, had to add a little variety in there.
Our guest this week is Portia Wood of Wood Legal Group. That is a African-American mother, a daughter, estate planning law firm.
She's the mom, just so we're clear.
So Portia, if you don't mind, before we take our first break, tell us kind of what you do and the importance of what you do.
Oh, wait, in a short period of time?
They wish to close the information gap that keeps Black, Latino, LGBTQ families from leveraging and protecting their assets to create generational wealth.
We have to normalize the idea that Black kids should be trust fund kids, and that I want to be a trust fund kid. Y'all should want to be trust fund kids. You better go tell your parents I want to be a trust fund kid.
Portia's passion around creating generational wealth for particularly Black families is admirable. It inspired me.
She earned her Juris Doctor degree from University of Maryland in 2011, where she served as president of her class. Wow, Portia.
And she's actually a sister of mine because we're Link sisters.
There is an important piece to the fact that there are not very many people who do this work on a comprehensive level that look like me. I like to remind people, like, let's be really clear, for 250 plus years, we were the wealth of this country.
We were the property. Yes.
We were the wealth. When you think about the first stocks being traded on the stock exchange, that was us.
We've got to normalize this idea in our community that we have assets that we're building. We have things. We've got real estate, we've got stock portfolios, we've got 401ks, we've got life insurance, we've got all of these things that generate wealth. We've got businesses. But if we're not protecting them, then we're losing them.
One paid off $1 million house, you can leverage, right? You can take a mortgage out. You can put tenants in there that pay that mortgage.
Want to be a name on a family tree one day. I want to be the person that my great-great-grandchildren know and remember because I guided them, because of my planning today and my sacrifices today, put them in a position to thrive. Not just my kids, but my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren.
Businesses are largely in COVID. Small businesses have been almost twice as likely to shutter.
Disproportionately so.
More than half of Black business owners
struggling to obtain federal paycheck protection.
Of COVID-19
on African Americans.
Somehow we always find a way to rise.
To the blueprint builders, to the backbones of every block, to the late night legends and the pioneers of legacy. For the curators of the culture, for the family franchise, and for generations to follow. You might fall, but never fail. Keep rising, keep rising, keep rising. Apply today for a variety of business, marketing, and tech makeovers on us to help your rise.
From Baltimore, born and raised, honey. So I started off with a modeling agency and I was embellishing pieces for the models to just get more attention, get more traction. As they would go out, people started asking them, can I buy that jacket? Can I buy those jeans? Who made that hat? And I'm like, no, you have to tell them it's about the model. They're like, people want to buy these clothing. And it was clothing that I wore myself, but I really didn't think there was a business there. So eventually I started selling the clothing to people out of my second bedroom. And then, of course, it grew into the business. So it's been amazing. What I loved was having relationships with women, with their self-esteem. And a lot of that comes from the outer appearance. So my styling is a part of that. So whoever thought you can do what you love in business? I didn't. And then luckily I found out and was able to follow my passion, and this is what I love doing. I'm so fortunate to have gotten with M&T because there's so much you don't know. I'm a designer, I'm an artist. So when it comes to the business aspect, everything from your point of sale to your retirement planning, M&T has helped me through all of that. It's a partnership. The thing about the dollhouse is it's not generational. The mother shops with the grandmother shops with the granddaughter. So it really breaks those kind of barriers. It's just about finding that piece that you love. And people love that we have that one-of-one pieces, so you have an exclusive piece that's just for you. Getting with the right bank that's going to help you along the way with things that there is no way that you are informed about. Because those are the relationships and that's the foundation you need to have longevity in your business.
Thank you for joining us at today's Expo. I hope you're getting everything you hoped for out of this event and more. This is the first of many events that the Afro is presenting this year, all leading up to our 130th anniversary gala in August. Other events as listed are the High Teas, one at Martin's West in Baltimore on Saturday, April 23rd, and the other at the Masonic Temple in Washington, D.C. on Saturday, June 26th. Ladies, pull out your Sunday best, your hats, your gloves, all your fancy wear, because these high teas are also high fashion. Oh, and gentlemen, you're welcome too. And lastly, you don't want to miss the Afro's 130th anniversary gala on Saturday, August 13th at Martin's Crosswinds in Greenbelt, Maryland. 130 years of continuous publication of the nation's #1 Black newspaper. Now that's a reason to celebrate. You'll find more information about these events and other news you can use on our website, afro.com. That's www.afro.com. We hope to see you at all of our events.
It was 1892 and the Afro-American was born, founded by a former slave with the audacity to dream and bring that dream to life. Others dared to dream, and despite the odds,
Black Americans who suffered over 250 years of slavery, 90 years of Jim Crow, 60 years of separate but equal.
The unlevel playing field,
And on Black Lives Matter Plaza, I'm going to give you guys a bit of a view of the street itself.
and even a pandemic.
A lot of businesses have and are still taking hits.
Many are still here. Like the stories first told by the soldier, we will tell of their trials, their triumphs. Those that paved the way and those who continue to thrive today. From a Baltimore-based newspaper to a global media company, 6 generations strong. Celebrating 130 years. We are the Afro.
And we're still here.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you all have been really enjoying the Black Business Matters Expo powered by the Afro, and you're taking away a lot of great nuggets to help you and your business grow in this current environment. My name is Deetra Miller. I work for M&T Bank. I'm a retail business banking regional manager in the Baltimore market. And we created a team about 2 years ago that was focused on being intentional and proactive with entrepreneurs of color and female entrepreneurs. So I'm so excited today to share with you all about small business banking and how to acquire a business loan from a bank. So with that, we'll get into our presentation. So hopefully today I'll be able to share with you, what every business owner should know when you're applying for credit. And today we will cover what are small business loans, how do small business loans work, the type of small business loans, how to apply for a loan, and then we'll do a wrap up. Okay, so how do small business loans work? Really the reason why someone should be applying for a small business loan is to help with expenses. And while some loans are generally for business funding, you could get a loan that's specific to gaining access to capital, commercial mortgages, purchasing new equipment or furniture, or just having a working line of credit to help you manage through things like payroll and 30-day to 60-day expenses. So many of you know, it's hard to start a business if you don't have any money. And sometimes the first time you think you want to go into business, you may rely on personal funds or getting funding from friends and family, but that's not always there. So there is an opportunity to go and get a loan, even if you're just in the 0 to 5 stage of your business. It's really important, and lending and money, it's really the key driver behind a small business growing. So as many of you probably know, without having that funding, it's really hard to take your business to the next level. And we know there's a direct correlation between small business financing and being able to hire employees. I know many of you may be solopreneurs, but in order to really take your business to the next level, it requires getting financing. So hopefully today's session will really help you understand the different types of loans and how they can help you in your business growth. Okay, so what are the different types of loans? So these are the most common. A term loan is typically used, it's a lump sum, it's over a certain amount of time, and you have a fixed rate. And then you know what your payment amount is going to be every single month. You typically would use this type of loan for purchasing a piece of equipment, for purchasing a vehicle. It's something that that you're not going to be able to pay off within a 0 to 90 day time frame. And even sometimes you may hear the term permanent working capital. So let's say you are working on a business expansion and you need about $100,000, for your marketing. You want to buy some equipment. You're going to need to hire somebody new, and it's probably going to take a while for them to be able to, pay for their own salary in terms of the production. So you may need to get a big loan up front to help you finance the business. So that would typically be a term loan. The next thing you will probably hear a lot about is the business line of credit. This is the vehicle that we typically see that is not used as it should be. So it's really just a revolving line. And like I said a little bit earlier, a business line of credit typically is for those 0 to 90 day expenses that you would be incurring. Because the thought here is you're kind of floating money in a sense as you're waiting for your sales to come in. So you may have to buy some inventory, and as you're selling the inventory, the thought would be you would use some of the funding to pay back what you use for the line of credit. What we see a lot of times is people may buy a vehicle or a piece of equipment and they put it on the line of credit, which can end up being very expensive because now you have this big lump sum on a line of credit, and typically the line of credit rates are higher than the term loans because it's it's for short-term working capital. So just be mindful if you need something that you're not going to be able to pay off for a longer period of time, you would like to look for a term loan rather than a business line of credit. And the business line of credit is usually for things like payroll and getting inventory, and really those expenses that are between 0 to 90 days that you're going to be paying back. Also, if you see that your balances on your line of credit are on there for longer than 12 months, you may want to think about what we would call terming out that balance, because it really is more like permanent working capital versus being funding that was just placed there temporarily. So just want to keep that in mind. Also, you have your equipment loans. So these could be a little bit different than a term loan, which you may see that banks will do, even as you may hear about an equipment line. And what that is there's something that you get approved for ahead of time, and with the knowledge of knowing that I'm going to be buying a couple of different vehicles or a couple of different pieces of equipment, and rather than applying over and over again, you can get approved for a dollar amount, and then as you're getting your invoices to purchase these pieces of equipment, you will lock in each time. So an equipment loan, it can be a little bit different than a term loan. It can be a little bit more flexible than having to apply for a loan each and every time. One thing that's not on here is a business credit card. So that does work similarly to a business line of credit, and it just has plastic to it, right? And usually those are smaller dollar amounts. You typically wouldn't see a credit card that has a limit of over $100,000. And a business credit card could be a really great way for you to get started in your business if you are in that really early phase, and maybe you haven't worked out your projections and things that you've thought about in terms of growing your business, but you just need something to get you started. Using a business credit card versus using your own personal credit may be a great way to go. So I just wanted to point that out because I know it's not sitting here on the slide. All right, so many of you may be scratching your head thinking, well, I'm really early in business. How do I even go about applying for a loan? I don't have financials to show that my business is generating the revenue for what I need for credit. So many of you may or may not have heard of the Small Business Administration. So the Small Business Administration, it's a government agency that offers support and resources to small businesses, and it offers guarantees to loans. So we do have a few graphics here, and just to make sure everybody understands, the SBA, Small Business Administration, they do not provide you with the financing. It's banking institutions that actually lend you the money, and the SBA guarantees our loans. So in the Black community specifically, I know a lot of times you may hear, we don't have collateral, and that's what causes a lot of small business owners, there to be such a big gap between white business owners and Black business owners, because just the gap and the wealth gap that occurs here in our country. So the SBA really helps overcome that obstacle of not having collateral, because the SBA is the bank's collateral, and collateral is really what is backing the loan. So, like a vehicle, that would be collateral. So when there is a lack of collateral, whether it's real estate or a piece of equipment or a vehicle, the SBA is really there to support small businesses along their journey. M&T, are really proud of our SBA preferred lender status. We were number 5, I believe we just moved to the number 4 SBA preferred lender in the country, which we're really, really, really proud of. We're number 1 in Baltimore and a number of different regions across the United States. But the SBA really does help to provide more lending. So what it's for is for if there's a lack of collateral, if it's a startup and you're not able to show that the business is making money. So this is how a lot of newer businesses can get into growing their business through getting a loan, is by utilizing the SBA. And then also if you're in business, and now many of you are starting to pivot in this new environment because of COVID, if you're taking on a new side of the business, like say you're doing PPE now because of COVID, and now you want to start another arm of your business. This is a way, if you can't really prove that this is going to work just yet, we could utilize the SBA to get you the financing you need. So there's a lot more into it than that, but I just wanted to make sure that you all understand. You have a lending partner, there's the loan, the bank is actually the entity that's giving you the loan, and the SBA backs the loan so that the banks can feel more comfortable providing a loan when sometimes it doesn't feel as comfortable for us to provide lending. So SBA reduces risk and enables you to get easier access to capital. So what should you know before applying for a small business loan? I know it could be very, very scary when you're going to a bank. And one of the things that my team and we really try to focus on, and hopefully many institutions are doing this now because of being in this George Floyd era and just people's eyes being awakened to a lot of the bias that takes place in our country. But it's really, really important for you to go to a bank, build that relationship, so that you have someone that's there to really help you understand how to go about helping your business gain access to capital. So you're really excited about your business. Hopefully many of you are still encouraged, even though we're in this current environment. But it's really important for a bank. We need to understand whether or not we want to take on the risk of lending to an individual. So just think about it. If I didn't know you and you asked me for $100, I don't know that I'd be so easily excited about giving you $100. I want to make sure that you're going to pay me back. So that's basically what it is for a bank, right? We're going to be lending you money, and we just want to make sure that you have the ability to pay us back. So that's why it's really important to know how much do you need to borrow. Make sure we're thinking about our credit, because your personal credit score is really important. A lot of questions that we tend to get is, my business is my business, but you are the business. You're an important part of the business, and the business is you. So it's really important for lenders, for bankers, to be looking at your personal credit profile, because it really does, and we'll get a little bit more into this as we go along, but it's part of what we call the 5 C's of credit. And so it's really important for us to understand who we're lending money to, and then having a really solid business plan. So even if you've been in business for a few years, you may not need to provide a formal business plan, but we still need to understand the operations of your business, where you were, where you are, and where you're going. All right, so the documents that you're going to prepare for the loan. This will be a little bit different depending on where you are and in terms of the number of years. I know all of you are merging, but 0 years in business versus 5 years in business is different. So one of the things that we're going to have to know for everybody is your personal background. So it's really important, going back to what I was talking about in terms of building the relationship. I know it can be really scary working with the bank, especially given the history in our country with communities of color, and more specifically the Black community, with working with financial institutions. So it's really important that you find someone that you can trust. And when you're working with someone, make sure they get to know you. So we want to know more about your personal background, really information about you. You're going to have to provide that for the application, and really getting to understand your history. So that goes into the resume. So the industry that you're in, does this make sense? Especially if you're starting a new business. If you are a welder, but now you want to be a hairdresser, we need to understand what's your experience and why are you making that pivot from being a welder to being a hairdresser. And if you are going to be a hairdresser, owning a salon, I should say, do you have people that are going to be working with you in the business that understand what it is like to own a salon, to run a salon? So it's really, really important for us to understand your background and how it applies to the business that you're running. The next thing will be a business plan. So the business plan is definitely going to be needed for those that are going into business. So, 0 years in business, you're going to have a strong business plan. And those that are going to be pivoting their business, it may not have to be detailed, but you are going to have to be able to explain the reason for the pivot, your understanding of the industry, especially if it's a different industry altogether that you're going into. And typically what a business plan would include is, your projected financials. And you can get people to help you with this. So we have templates at the bank that we can help you with, but it's really important. You should rely on some of the resources that are available in the community, which many people don't always know about. But most communities have a small business development center, a small business resource center. There are a lot of women business centers, as well as other organizations or other technical assistance providers, capacity building providers that will help you. There's also SCORE. That's an organization that also helps you in getting things like industry data, helping you put together a business plan, helping you understand how to put together projections. So you're going to want to complete projections. Typically, the projections need to be for 3 years, with the first year being month by month. And you're also going to want to make sure that you understand the industry that you're going into or that you're currently in. Again, many banks also may have some industry data. Many of those resources that I mentioned earlier will be able to help you find industry data. But it's really important to understand what the industry that you're in looks like, because if you're creating projections that are saying you're going to have a net profit of 30%, but your industry on average only has about 10%, that's a big gap there. So you're going to want to understand that and be able to provide projections that will prove or closely prove that you're going to be able to hit those numbers. Also, what you're going to want to do is have a cash flow statement and a balance sheet to show what that's going to look like in your business. And walk through what your business is doing, your mission, your marketing plan, who your target audience or customer is, and how you're going to be generating money, and also who's going to be helping in the business. I know many of you may be solopreneurs. Most of Black-owned businesses are mostly solopreneurs. So it may not be, you may be the everything in the business, but still being able to understand, how are you going to be able to do that? So really understanding the operations. Next, the income tax returns are really going to be for those businesses that have been in operation and actually are generating income, but your personal tax returns are going to be needed as well. So typically, most banks ask for 3 years of personal tax returns, and then how many every years you have of the business. Obviously, if you're new to business, you won't be able to provide that, and that's where we're going to heavily rely on the projections that you're providing. All right, so again, for the documentation of the loan, your loan history, you're going to get the bank statement. So loan history, that's if you already have other outside loans. So that's also going to be taken into account for whether or not you have the ability to pay our loan as well as the other loans through the income that your business is generating. Bank statements, you may need to provide these. It's not all the time, but if you're having just a hard time in showing cash flow, these may be helpful in providing to the banker that you're working with. So going back to the word collateral, this is really what the bank is going to be using to say, okay, if all goes wrong, what am I going to have to back up this loan? So in the event that you do fail, which we're hoping that no one does, but in the event that you fail, this is what we're going to be looking to make the bank whole. So collateral, and then of course the SBA may be our form of collateral. So that may be who we go to in the event that things aren't going well. How are you going to be using the loans? So back to when we were talking about the different types of loans, it'll be really important for us to be able to match up what the financing that we're giving you against what you're using the loan for. And then the debt schedule. So just being able to provide a list of debts that you have. So the type of debt you have, the balance that you owe on there, your monthly payment, and then when the loan or the line of credit is coming due. Okay, legal documents. So again, these are things that you're going to need most of the time anyway, even just to open up an account, but making sure that you have your business license or registrations. For those of you, I'm in the state of Maryland. So for those of you that are in the state of Maryland, the Maryland Department of Assessments and Taxation, once you file your business, all the information is right there. It's public information. We typically can pull this off of the website, but you want to make sure that you have that information. If you are like saying, for example, you are getting a loan for a build out of a space. So you're renting and from your landlord, we need to see the business lease. Also like the articles of incorporation, your LLC filing, copies of any contracts you have with any third parties. So if you are purchasing a business from somebody else, we want to get that agreement so that we see that there is a binding sale of that business that you are going to be purchasing. So that would be really important for us to put in our package, our lending package. And then if you're purchasing a franchise, you definitely have to have your franchise agreement for us to be able to move forward with your loan. Or some different types of financial statement reporting. So I know this, financial statements can be really confusing. Many of you have got into the business because you're really good at what you do and you know how to do that thing. You may not be as interested or have the time to always be looking at your finances, but it is really important to understand how money flows in and out of your business. So I would really recommend having a bookkeeper or working with a CPA, or again, going to one of the resources that I provided earlier. Many times they can help you. There are a lot of services available now these days that can help you manage your finances instead of you just doing a spreadsheet. You do have things like QuickBooks and other services that can help you manage the inflow and outflow of money into the business. So what the financial statements do, they really help us understand how does this company make money, and what is your company worth? So that usually is on the balance sheet. So your balance sheet shows your assets and liabilities. Again, if you are really new into business, you're not going to have this. So that's why we're really going to rely on those projections. But these documents really do help tell the story. And this is why it's really important to have trusted advisors that are helping you manage the money in your business. What we typically tend to see, and we'll get a little bit more into this with the income statement, but we look at your tax returns. For a business that has definitely been in operation for a few years, we're looking at your tax returns. And I know it doesn't always tell the perfect story for your business, but it does tell a story. So if you are a business, and I know many times we try our best to not have to pay as many taxes within the law, right? If you guys have CPAs, that hopefully they are working within the law, and if there are tax write-offs that you can benefit from, by all means do that. But you have to be aware of what your tax strategy is, because what we're going to look for is the bottom line, the net income on your income statement. And if you don't have any net income, what that looks like to a bank is that you can't pay us back. There's no money to pay us back. So it's really important that you understand that. For those of you that are currently in business and you're filing taxes, be sure to look at your tax returns. Many of you may just be doing a Schedule C if you're a smaller company, or a single member LLC or sole proprietor. But it's really, really important that you all pay very close attention, because that could be what prevents you from getting a loan. So I want to make sure that you all have time to just go through that and take a look at it. So what tells us a story is the income statements. That's how money is coming into your business and how money is going out. So your income and your expenses, and then you have your net income at the bottom. Your balance sheet, again, shows your assets and liabilities. So things like cash, accounts receivable, accounts payable, and then on the other side, whatever loans that you have, your retained earnings, and that's the money that stays in the business. Your statement of cash flows or profit and loss statement. Really, a profit and loss statement is sort of like a tax return in a sense. Your profit and loss is what you kind of manage throughout the year, and that's what is used many times for your tax returns. And then your own personal financial statement, which most banks will have their own template for you to fill out. But this shows your financial wealth, any type of income that you're bringing in, especially for those of you that are side hustlers and you're maybe working full time or even part time and you're still working in your business. Seeing that outside income would be something that's helpful, especially if you're new in business, because now you're showing that you have outside income to help you get through these first few years in business. And then your credit report. So you don't have to bring that to the banks. The banks will be pulling that as their, as you're applying for credit, but we do look at the credit report. So things we look at is how are you paying people on time? Are you overextended or underextended in credit? So what is your debt utilization or credit utilization, I should say. So those are all the things that are really important to help us tell the story. And then of course, you are an important part of that story. So getting to know you and understanding, what your goals are for the business will be really important in helping us get to the next step. So again, in terms of financials, we typically look at 3 years of financial statements. And what this does is helps us look at trends. So that's where it will be really important for you to come in, because if we're looking at your business and, say you were doing really, really well and you were growing year over year, and then you had a year where your sales went down, we just need to understand that. So that's why it's really important to be open and transparent and really vulnerable. I know talking about money can be very uncomfortable, but the more open that you are, the more that we can help you get to that next stage of getting access to capital for your business. All right, so the income statement, as I was saying earlier, it's really just a summary of how your business is performing, and it shows your profitability or lack thereof over time. And what it looks like is revenues, and then you have your expenses, and then it shows your profits. And hopefully there will be a profit, or it may show a loss. So here's a sample income statement. And what many of you may notice, if you look at your tax returns, this is what will show if you don't necessarily create an income statement on your own, which I do recommend using some type of tools that you can track month over month. But this income statement will look very similar to what you see in your tax returns. So you'll have your revenues. It'll show the cost of goods sold, so the cost of either your product or your hours, if you're someone that is more of a service business and not much of a product business. But as you can see here, you generated $100,000 in sales, but it costs you about $60,000 for those sales. And then there's a gross profit of $40,000. So the gross profit is before any expenses are taken out. Then you have things like marketing and advertising, your general and administrative more of the operational kind of behind the scenes things. And then any other operating expenses. So as you can see here, the total of those operating expenses was $30,000. And now if we take the 40 minus the 30, now we have about $10,000 you have. And then you have things like, you could have interest expense, and that would be if you're paying another loan or a line of credit. Income taxes also be taken out of that. So at the end of this, now we see you have a net income of $8,000. So why that's important to us, because that tells us, okay, after you pay all of your expenses, you have $8,000 left that you're profiting from the business. And that's the number that the bank is going to be using to say, okay, now how can they pay us back? Or do they have the ability to pay us back? All right, so this is kind of what we use to determine if your business is profitable or not. So you have your net income, and what we can do is we can add back certain things. So things like interest, things like taxes, things like depreciation and amortization, we're going to be adding all of those back for us to determine how much of a loan you can afford. So as you can see, we had the $8,000 in net income from the prior slide, which if you look over there is to help us, so you don't have to go back and forth in the slides, but it shows where the net income is, and you're able to add back the interest, add back the taxes. There was no depreciation. And depreciation, what that is for things like equipment or a vehicle that you have or real estate. It depreciates over time. So, and I'm not a tax professional, but you can use this as a tax benefit to be able to depreciate so that it can reduce your tax liability. So many people, you'll be able to see depreciation on your tax returns, but we add that back for the purposes of understanding how much you can afford for a loan, because we know it's an expense, but it's not really a true expense. So we add that back to calculate how much you can afford. So say your loan payments, after we determine how much that would be $500 a month. So it would be $6,000 a year. So what we look for, I could say at M&T, and I do know many of my friends at other banks, it's also very similar, is we look to make sure that you can pay these payments back plus 20% more. So what we do for this is we would take your earnings before income taxes and depreciation and amortization, and then we divide that by this loan payment. So as you can see, if you look up at the top, there's that $11,000 divided by $6,000 would give you what we call a debt service coverage ratio. And that's, again, just can you pay the debt, service the debt? So it shows that you can pay the debt plus about 80% more of what that debt is. So in this case, this particular business would be in really good shape to be able to afford this particular loan that they're going for. All right, so personal credit factors. I know we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, but it is really important. I know it could be a little bit of a scary thing because maybe there were certain situations that caused us to not have great credit, but it is really important to understand where your credit score is. You also, for those of you that may not know this, you can go to www.annualcreditreport.com to get your credit reports for free one time a year. You can get all three of your reports from all three of the credit bureaus. Now during COVID, you actually can get them more frequently. So if you go to the website, it'll let you know that you can request them a couple different times. And so it's really important just to make sure your credit is in really great shape. I can't speak for other banks. I know at M&T, we look at a credit score at about 650 and above. So we really want to understand how you are personally handling credit, because again, as we're looking for trends, if a person is handling their credit profile well, that typically means on the personal side, that typically means that they're probably going to handle things really well on the business side. And then the reverse, it's not always 100% true, but it creates the illusion, at least, if there's a history of not paying back, it creates the illusion that there may be a good correlation between that and being able to pay a business loan. That's why it's just really important to practice really great credit habits. And if you're not in a place where you are, at the 650, some may do a 620 or above credit score. If you're not at that place, it's okay. Now's a good time to take a look at your credit reports. Make sure everything is reporting on there accurately. And for anything that's not accurate, making a dispute to make sure those go away. And then for the things that that maybe, I had a situation and things weren't going well at the time, and I had to decide between feeding my family and paying a debt. So it's okay, just address the issue and start working towards, especially if you have a little bit of time in which you want to apply for credit, just start working on it. It typically will take, just a few months, about 6 months on average, we've seen, where if someone is proactive and working on building back up their credit, if they're just really proactive and getting things paid down, or getting issues resolved, if they didn't even realize, many times we see that people don't even realize there's an issue on their credit report. But just work on those things, and within 6 months, you can put yourself in really great shape to be in a better position to apply for credit if you're not meeting the bank's thresholds. And it will also be really important as you're applying for credit, ask the bank that you're working with what credit bureau they work with, because you may have a credit score on, let's say, TransUnion that is higher than Equifax or Experian, and the bank is maybe using Experian or Equifax. So it's really important to understand which bureau they use. That way you make sure as you're working on your credit, or if your credit's great, that what is being pulled is the same thing as you are aware of. All right, so getting to the 5 C's of credit. And now the next slide is going to show the 6 C's of credit, but we can probably say the 7 C's of credit. And COVID, we can add to that 7th C. But as we go through this, let's first start with capacity. So capacity really is the ability for you to repay the loan. So if you remember, all a bank is interested in is, if I give this person, this business money, are they going to have the ability to pay me back? So that's why it's really important to understand how money flows in and out of your business. And this could be a really good time to see, and COVID has actually provided a lot of people an opportunity to say, well, maybe I didn't really need that expense. Maybe there are some things that I could cut back being in a remote world. So, really important to look how money flows in and out, because you're going to want to make sure you put yourself in the best position to be able to show that you can pay back any loan. The next thing would be capital. So, being able to leverage what you're putting into the business, right? So for going back to the Small Business Administration, the SBA, for many SBA loans, there may be what's called an equity injection. So you need to put at least 10% into the loan, and then the other 90% can be financed by the bank. So it'll be really important just to see, are you willing to invest in your business? We typically, any bank typically wouldn't give you 100% of any financing. Now for vehicles and for equipment purchases, many times you see that those are 100%, but things like real estate, if you're buying another business, you're going to have to put a piece of that in yourself as well. It's called your equity injection. So like for real estate, many times, you'll see many banks are looking for a 20% equity injection, or 20% put down towards the purchase of said property. And what it helps us do is just, again, it tells us how serious you are. And many may not be in a situation to where you can put a whole bunch of money down. That's why working with the SBA, if you're looking for more permanent capital, would be really helpful, because you only have to put 10% versus many banks looking for maybe 20% down. Character is really, really important. So going back to what I shared about getting to know you as a bank, building that relationship, telling us the things that we should know. So if you come to me and you say, well, we go down the checklist and I ask you, have you ever had a bankruptcy? Do you have any liens? Do you have any judgments? That's going to be on the application. And then if something comes up out of that and it says, well, you do have a tax lien, but you told me you didn't, that really, it shows, and I know sometimes we used to be scared to share information, but it kind of goes against that trust factor. So you should try your best, and you don't have to share everything under the table to a banker, especially for someone that you don't really know. But it is important to let us know things that we should know ahead of time, especially as a banker. I'm not an underwriter, but I try very hard to understand the underwriting process to put a business in the best position to get approved for a loan. And we work really closely with our underwriting department. So, they're the behind the scenes. I'm in front of the scene, right? I'm there with you. And the questions are going to come to me as a banker of, well, did you know that this was happening for this person? So mind you, they don't know you, right? And I feel like I know you. So if I know you, I'm able to mitigate, I'm able to help against that particular risk, right? So I can say, if I knew that there was a drop in income, I already knew that, right? So, and you told me, hey, we lost an employee, a really key employee to the business, but we found a new employee. So this year you should see my income increasing. So those are the type of things that are really important, because in the write-up that we do for an underwriter, again, it's the write-up is the telling of the story of the business. They only see the financials. They only see what's on your credit report. We help tell the whole story when we are creating that write-up for them in the loan, so that we're able to tell them, okay, this company, John he lost an employee, but he just replaced him with another employee who has 20 years of experience in the business, and we can already see trends of the income increasing. So that would be really important for us to get ahead of any risk that an underwriter may see just looking at the numbers. And then going back to the collateral piece. So again, what's going to be backing our loan? This could be a piece of equipment, a vehicle, it could be real estate, or it can be the SBA. Or it can even be if you have a 401k, if you have any type of marketable security. So if you're investing, we could also use a securities account to act as collateral for your loan. Now, I know that may not be a situation for everybody, but for those of you that have maybe started your business as a side hustle and now you're going into business and you have been investing, especially, now many people have been getting into investing because of just the environment and learning more and being able to take advantage of how the economy is actually, in terms of the stock market, performing. But that could be used as a way to collateralize your business. And then conditions. So again, that purpose of the loan. So if you're going to be, building out a space of your business, is really important for us to make sure we're lining up the loan with the type of vehicle of the loan with what you're using it for. And the market and economic conditions. So going back to the industry knowledge that we were talking about earlier, really understanding your industry. And, if you're saying your business is going to be generating 30% worth of profit, we don't want to see that your industry actually is only 10% of profit, because then what that means to me is to the bank is that you're going to be generating a lot less income than what you would be unless you are a superstar business. But we typically don't see industry trends. We typically don't see those outliers. It can happen, but it doesn't happen often that someone is well outperforming or outpacing how the industry is doing. So it's really important to make sure that your numbers are representative of what's happening in the market. And the next C, it's on here, it's really kind, it's saying competency. Sometimes we use it as common sense, but what's the knowledge and the experience of the owner? So going back to the example that I gave earlier, if you're a welder and now you're purchasing a salon or you're going to start a salon, how much do you know as a welder in terms of doing hair? Is it just a hobby that you had? And really being able to understand, if you're not the industry expert in terms of what your resume looks like, how are you going to be able to really make sure that business runs really well? So your experience, your business knowledge, if you're someone that's investing in a new business, what's going to be the operations behind that business, and what's going to help you in running the business. Now, the seventh C that I would say that's not on here would be COVID, right? So if we've seen a drastic decline in the business because of COVID, we're understanding of that. We know that, right? So it's just important for us to know, how are you pivoting? What have you done in this current environment to make sure that your business is still able to operate? We already know that we're probably not going to go back to the normal that we used to know. It's going to probably be a combination of the current environment and what we used to know. And hopefully it'll be a lot closer to what we used to know, but we do have an understanding that it's going to take a number of years for us to get back to some sort of normal. So this is the environment that we're in. So how are you pivoting? What are you doing differently in your business to ensure that you're still able to make money? You may have a 20% decline in your sales, and that's okay. Is that going to be something that's going to be consistent? And how are you going to be adjusting for the decline in those sales? So it's just really important for us to better understand in this current environment, for those of you that have been in business for a few years, how does this environment impact you, and how are you overcoming the obstacle of COVID? Because we know it's not going to go away anytime soon. All right, so I know I spit a lot of information at you. I hope this is helpful. I know you all are on just a great journey, and I understand that this environment has made it just really difficult for many of you. But just keep the faith, keep moving. keep believing, because banks are still lending. We are out here to help you. And I can speak for my team and I at M&T and for my colleagues around the bank as well. We are indeed helping small businesses. We know that small businesses are the backbone of our communities, especially in communities of color, especially in my beloved Black community. This is a way for us to generate wealth. So we do not by any means want any more small businesses to go out of business. It's just really, really important for you to remember some things. Do your homework. What is it that you are looking to do in your business? How are you pivoting? Really making sure that the operations of your business are intact. Make sure that you understand how money flows in and out of your business. If you are someone that's getting started in the business, understanding your industry and really understanding, who your profile customer is and how you're going to be generating money. Then going to know your numbers. That's going to be really important for you to understand your numbers. So if you're someone that, maybe typically is a little bit nervous of finances, that's okay. It's never too late to be into them now. And for your own sake, you want to make sure that you went into business because you have a passion, right? But we want to make money, right? This is our livelihood. So being a business owner, I don't want to see people bleeding money. I really want to make sure that you all are making money. So understand how money flows in and out. Be transparent, which I know it's really hard because, and I, maybe shouldn't be as transparent as this, but I know banks have not earned the right to earn your trust. I know that they do not deserve the right to earn your trust. But there are a lot of good people. And there are a lot of great banks. And I do believe working for M&T, I know we are truly, truly about the business, right? So we want to help you along your journey. So the more transparent you could be, give us the good, the bad, and the ugly, even for things that you may be ashamed of. It's okay. But having someone that you can trust, that you can talk through those things with, so they can help you. We are a part of your team. I believe in, that we are an extended part of your team. And I love my customers. We love our customers. So it's really important that we feel like we have a relationship. I hope this was great information. My information will be shared for all of you to access me. Even if you just have a question, I'm open and I'm here for all of you. I want to make sure all of you succeed. So happy journey. I know it's not an easy one, but please keep the faith, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the expo.
Wow, that was fantastic. I hope that you enjoyed the workshops and the speakers as much as I did. Women who win. You know what? So many women could have been a part of this, and we might have to do a part two. But we thank those who did participate today. We thank you for hanging in here with us all morning long. We also want to thank our sponsors again. We thank AARP, our title sponsor. We thank M&T and Comcast and Baltimore Urban League. And we thank the Baltimore Development Corporation. This has been wonderful. And I really enjoyed the fireside chat that I had with Savon and Alicia and Shanasia. And so if you've not yet signed up for the Black Philanthropy Circle, you need to get your name on that roll. And so also we want to ask that you would follow us on social media, and that you would log on to afro.com and become a member or a subscriber. People say to us all the time, you know what, I read the Afro, I appreciate your content, but we need you to help us to support our journalism. It helps to keep democracy going, and it helps also for our stories to be told as only we can tell them. And so thank you, Impeccable, for being such a gracious host. Thank you, Dana Peck, as well. Thank you, Lenora Housey, for being the team leader from the Afro who has kept this engine running. Thank you, Misha Green, for all of the interviews that you did for this particular event. And we thank Harvard PR for your marketing assistance. And so to everyone who joined us, again, we appreciate that, and we thank you for being women and men who win.